When your child gets sick, it can be a challenging time for both you and your little one. On one hand, you know that they need to get their sleep in order to get better. But on the other hand, they may have symptoms like fever and coughing, which makes it really hard for them to get the rest that they need. So today, I've got 6 tips for you to help your sick toddler get some sleep so they can get better quick. Tip number 1, maintain a consistent bedtime routine even when your child isn't feeling well. Doing familiar activities like snuggling in a chair and reading some books or taking a warm bath or singing lullabies can provide comfort and also let your child know that it's time for sleep. This is one of the reasons why having a real consistent bedtime routine, even when your child isn't sick, is really important, because your child's body starts to learn that doing these few steps of the bedtime routine comes first and then sleep comes next. And it can actually help their body stimulate melatonin production. And this is all really helpful when your child is feeling under the weather. Tip number 2, be flexible with their sleep schedule. That's right, I want you to be consistent with the bedtime routine, but be a little bit more flexible with their sleep schedule. That's because kids need even more sleep when they're sick than normal. All humans do. We need to get our rest in order for our body to fight the illness and get better. But what can happen is our kids' symptoms can actually make it difficult for them to sleep, which can quickly lead to them becoming overtired. So it may seem like when your kid is sick, they get less sleep than normal, but that's really not what we want. Let's say your child typically goes to bed around 7:30 at night, but when they're sick, they may need to even go to bed like an hour earlier. So it's just really important to watch their sleepy signs, especially if they've been not sleeping well at night with some wake ups and stuff. Then really watch their sleepy signs because they may need an earlier bedtime. In some kids who have stopped napping, you may need to offer them a nap during the day if they're really sleeping poorly at night. And if they won't sleep in their room, it's okay to put them in the car and drive them around if that helps them fall asleep. It's not something I normally recommend, but when kids are sick, it's really important for them to just really catch up on their sleep any way that they can. So let's say your kid falls asleep at kind of the wrong time, like maybe you're running errands at 4 o'clock and they fall asleep in the car. Normally you don't want that to happen, but if they're sick and not feeling well, I would let them rest. Just wake them up maybe after an hour or so. You may need to move bedtime a little bit later that night in that situation, and that's okay. Really, the goal when they're sick and not feeling well is to prioritize sleep any way you can get it. Tip number 3, use a humidifier. Adding some moisture into the air can help alleviate your child's congestion and really help them breathe easier, which is going to help them sleep better. Just make sure to clean out that humidifier every couple days because it can get kind of moldy in there. Another thing you can try to help with your child's breathing is putting some Vicks Vapor Rub on their chest. That's that mentholatum smelling medicine that kind of helps to open their airways. That can be helpful sometimes. People also swear by putting Vicks Vapor Rub on the bottom of their kids' feet and then putting some socks on. There's really no data to show that that does anything or is helpful in any medical way, but people swear by it, so it certainly can't hurt. Tip number 4, elevate their head. So laying down flat can make cough and congestion kind of feel even worse. So in order to kind of alleviate those symptoms, you can raise your child's head up a little bit. Just put your child at a little bit of an incline. You can do this by adding an extra pillow under them. But if they don't like that, you can actually fold up a towel and put it under the mattress itself so the actual mattress is at an incline. Doing this can help relieve some of those congestion symptoms and can help them sleep better. Tip number 5, keep them hydrated. Of course, you want to be encouraging your child to drink a lot of fluids during the day. This is going to help keep their throat moist and really prevent them from getting dehydrated, which is especially important if they have a fever. So stick to water or drinks that are rich in electrolytes, but try to avoid sugary stuff right before bed and then certainly avoid caffeine. Tip number 6, at bedtime, it's okay to offer a little bit of additional comfort and reassurance if necessary. Listen, being sick, it can be hard to sleep. If you've got a cough, fever, congestion, all that stuff can make it really difficult for kids to fall asleep and even to stay asleep through the night. So let's say your child is really used to falling asleep in their room without you, but they're not feeling well and they want you to stick around to help them a little bit. It's okay to stay and offer them a little bit more reassurance when they're sick. I just encourage you to think about doing as little as possible to help them get the sleep that you know that they need, because you don't want to start any bad sleep habits that are going to be hard to break. As an example, if your child is used to falling asleep alone without you, but they're coughing and they're not feeling good, it's okay for you to sit in their room and rub their back for a little bit to help them fall asleep. If you can, try to sneak out before they're totally asleep, once they've kind of calmed down. But you don't need to sleep in their bed with them, snuggled up with them all night and have them, lay on your shoulder in order to fall asleep. That's what I mean by thinking about doing as little as you can. Offer them some extra reassurance, but don't do too much. Don't get yourself into a situation where you're going to start new habits that you don't want to be stuck with. Also, let your child know that you're staying with them because they're sick, that your bedtime may look a little bit different, and that's because they're not feeling well. But once they are feeling well, you're going to go back to, how things normally are with them falling asleep alone in their room. So like I said, if they need a little bit of extra comfort when they're sick, that's completely fine to offer to them. The key here is knowing when your child is feeling better and then getting them back to their good independent sleep habits. Kids' colds only last a few days, so offer comfort to them during that time, but be aware, once they're feeling better, you don't need to stick around and rub their back anymore. If they already know how to fall asleep by themselves, you can encourage them to start doing that. If you get stuck in there for a week, 2 weeks, once your child is feeling better, then you may be starting some new habits that can be tough to break. Of course, if your child is struggling to sleep and it's been more than a few days and they don't seem to be bouncing back, then definitely consult with your pediatrician. Remember, all kids are different, so it's really important that you pay attention to what your child's needs are during this time. Thanks for joining me today. Don't forget to like this episode, share it with a friend, and subscribe so you'll be the first to know when a new episode comes out.